First of all, let's go back to, we just heard you out there. You're not shy about sharing your views about the United States. You know what? Do you find that people don't like hearing the truth?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much that's my whole shtick, really, is that they've kind of opposed me because of the fact that my personality or character tells the truth about just about everything he says.
There was days before, though, when the same people cheered for you. Again, is it just what you're telling them?
Well, I mean, if you apply that same theory to America in general, but the way it really is the fans that watch wrestling in the United States are much more bloodthirsty and sort of a violent mix of crowd, and they, for example, they really do root on or cheer on the bad guys far more than they do the good guys, which makes it kind of lends the whole world, the idea to hero is null and void down here. So it really doesn't work to try to be a good guy, which is what my whole character said a long time ago. So I just try to be as bad as everyone else.
Is that a drawback that the business is more successful than perhaps it's ever been, but that is a sign of that or a byproduct of that?
Well, I think it is you've seen like these little dramas unfold in wrestling through the last 40 years, whether it's like World War II, they had Japanese villains and German villains, and I guess wrestling taps into just about every nerve from Gorgeous George. Goldust, to me, is just the 90s version of Gorgeous George. And this sort of little, I don't know if you call it sort of a war, because I don't really believe there's any real hatred between Americans and Canadians. But at the same time, there is a real sort of little particle of truth to it when you do know that Americans are sort of seen around the world as people that kind of think they're better than everyone else all the time. And maybe that's not everybody, but it does come across as an opinion that's overseas.
Okay, that's true about Americans, but you're the man who says you're the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Isn't that a little bit of the same
thing? Exactly.
A little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the exact same thing. I think if you were going to come up with a motto for America, that would be it. They're the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. It's really hard to argue that, but again, the people around the world do argue about it.
Well, so what it amounts to is they just don't like you saying it.
Well,
if they said it themselves, it'd be okay.
Well, I think it sort of works for everybody. Everyone thinks they're better than everyone else. The Germans probably think they're better than Americans. Americans think they're better than... I think America is probably without a doubt the greatest country in the world. But at the same time, in contrast to Canada, there's a lot of mistakes that are being made in America that they could take a look at, say, Canada and go, hey, there is gun control up there, and they do have health care. And, I don't think Canada is racked with any kind of racial prejudice of any kind. And then when you do come to America, there's a lot of things they got to fix up down here. And me sort of putting that into a message to wrestling fans, I think it takes far more courage for one thing, and it certainly is a more meaningful message than what they were doing 2 years ago.
You mentioned wrestling in a sense mirrors society.
Yeah.
What do you reflect about society in the character that you personify?
Well, my character personifies that he will speak the truth and never lie, and that I'll fight fire with fire, and I can be as bad as the next guy. If that's what counts, if that's what the only way to sort of make your mark, which is kind of what the American wrestling fans kind of put me in that legitimate situation. That's a real situation that I was put in. That they were booing me as a hero, and it's like, okay, I can be as bad as the next guy, and that's sort of what I've done, and now they kind of despise me for it, and it's kind of played into a whole much, whether it's Donovan Bailey or whatever, they kicked it off between Canadians and Americans, the Salmon Wars or whatever. I managed to somehow, blend that into sort of a storyline that I sort of apply to wrestling. But again, it's just, to me, it's just a different message than something that's been done before. Wrestling seems, you could watch, some of these other wrestling organizations, they really tap into those same old tired nerves that I think that, I can't hardly watch the show. It just doesn't do anything new for me. So
is there really competition? Is it like the AFC, NFC, or is there any real competition there?
Well, I don't know. They got a lot of great wrestlers on both sides. I think a lot of times the wrestling stars themselves are really interchangeable, but they'll never have the production quality, or at least I've never seen yet that they have the production quality that the WWF has, and I don't believe that they have the one most important ingredient, and that is Vince McMahon. He's really just a genius, I think, when it comes to wrestling.
I thought you were going to say Bret the Hitman Hart.
No, I'm just the greatest wrestler in the world. It's kind of like being the greatest actor and then talking about the greatest producer or director. He's a genius when it comes to wrestling, and he's an innovator, which, again, I find it's an important thing to have. I believe I'm an innovator when it comes to pro wrestling. But a lot of people go back and just either steal your stuff or do it over or don't do it as well.
Work ethic. That's one thing that you have that a lot of other people, I mean, not to diminish anybody else, aside from your own family who you're very close to and you've got a group going with from them now, who else would you consider to be anywhere close to the work ethic level that you put out?
Maybe Steve Austin, or maybe like Sean is in a lot of ways probably a better athlete than me, but I don't believe he's anywhere near the wrestler that I am. I don't believe he's missing a lot of the other qualities that I think you need to have, like just a sort of a toughness to your person. I don't believe Sean's a very tough person or a strong person, or I don't think even emotionally he's strong. He's just a guy that I think he really appeals to a female audience, and wrestling has always been a rugged sport that appeals to rugged people, I think, or tough people. And even like to females that watch it, they want to see tough guys. And I don't think Sean fits that. Sean's more of a like a Chippendale dancer or something. I'm sure there's a commodity, or maybe there's a bigger commodity than the one I have. But I mean, I don't really want my kids growing up to be like Shawn Michaels. And does anybody really?
Well, I don't have kids. Mike, you got kids. You want them to grow up to be like Shawn Michaels?
No comment.
All right, I can ask you a million questions. But I got one more I want to deal with. Compare what you do as champion of the WWF to what Reggie White does as Super Bowl MVP, to what Michael Jordan does on the court. Make a comparison there for me if you can.
Well, I never thought of it like that, but it's probably very similar. The belt really signifies who's the best, and and often when it does go to the wrong person, it can be a real letdown. But I believe that it's always signified for me. I've had it 5 times. I don't think anyone really can dispute that I'm the best. I mean, pay-per-view or Monday Night Raws, or I think my performances have always been top of the line and always 100%, and they're always uniquely, at least original. I mean, you have to look at what I do for a living. I got a very small stage. I got 4 corners, and I got 3 ropes on each side. I got a referee, and that's about it. And I got a pair of skimpy clad clothes on. And I think I can tell a 2.5-hour epic movie in about 15 to 18 minutes if the right circumstances are there. And I find that I do that time in and time out. And I'm grateful that Vince McMahon gives me the canvas to work on, because I think every match I have is sort of like a little movie. And it's like starring the next one is another one. But they're always, I'm never disappointed with my performances, and I think that that's obviously why I'm still a champ.
I'm never disappointed either.